Blue Skaggies, back again. And today it's all about generosity and generousness, being generous, etc. What are Mark's topics? We had a good chat beforehand. It's a lot deeper than you might think. Hey Mark, got some examples?
It is, I thought about this, over time. I've always been what I would call, especially when you're on the street. I always remember my first visions of North Shields. Go around North Shields, you'd always see the same characters. I won't mention anybody's names without offending them. That would be, looking for something off you, whether it's money or help or
That was the
whatever.
same with Willie B, wasn't it? Johnny
Yeah, and
Decker and Willie B.
they were always sat in the same places, weren't they?
Nah.
And yeah, I used to sort of feel for these characters. So I think
Yeah.
over time, especially in Liverpool, I would get around Liverpool quite a bit, and you see them in the doorwells, and I always feel tough for them. And then there's that balance about do you slip them a quid, or do you go into the local McDonald's and buy them a burger just so you know they're not spending it on drink and alcohol or drugs. There's one outside our Asda which is only just around the corner, and let's say one of the Polish guys is there, and he plays the same tune day in, day out, the same song day in, and he's now got this pile of food next to him because he wants the money, but people are just buying him food, and he's got this pile of food next to him, and you can sort of see the frustration in his face because he's there. He doesn't know any other songs, so it's and we probably know there's a pimp round the corner, isn't there, waiting to collect the money up.
They exposed a bit of a thing around
Yeah.
here that somebody started hanging around outside the local co-op, and it stood out like a sore thumb because that just doesn't happen around here. And it was similar in Newcastle that there was a warning out that look, you won't be able to tell the difference between them, but there are some that are out purely for the money, and that it's a job. They're not homeless. They're collecting money, and this goes to a central source and one. And they exposed some of it. So this guy's gone. There's a few other guys that have just gone. It was a bit of a make you take when my mum was walking back from the co-op, and she looked at you and you went, "Have you got?" And she went, "No, I haven't got no change." And she just looked. She looked later on when she was on her way back, and his rug and his sign, or whatever, were in the commercial bin down the side of the, just hanging out. She went, "Wasn't that his? Wasn't that his rug and his little cardboard?" So, well, surely you'll need that. You wouldn't just chuck a perfectly good rug or blanket rather. And what's that about? So it seemed a little suspicious. And then, of course, later on in the paper, there was all sorts of ruckus about some of these genuine versus not so genuine homeless people asking for money.
There was an interesting one I had in. I just howled at this one when I went for Carl's stag do in Newcastle, and we come out of. We were on the bottom road next to the Tyne Bridge, and we come out of a club, and there was a couple of homeless guys sat there, and one of Carl's mates, very good mates, passed him a quid, and they actually threw the quid back at him and said, "We only take notes."
Shut up.
No, seriously, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, and they were laughing as they did it, and they threw the quid back at him and said, "We only take notes, mate." And I just thought it was ingenious as well, because a lot of people when they're drunk would go, "Yeah, all right, got me, well done," and slip them a fiver. So every now and then they must have decided, there's a bunch of lads coming out of a pub, let's try it on with them, and so there was some sort of thought went into the comedy side.
A deliberate joke saying, "Yeah, mate, we only take notes."
Yeah. And I won't forget that. And it was funny, and I was to the point I was almost tempted to go back and sort of and give the fiver
just because it was a funny chancer type moment. You went, "Yeah, you've earned that."
Yeah, and I am the type, I don't carry cash now, but if I was going into a city centre like that, I would probably look in my glove compartment and pull out a couple of quid. And if I saw anybody, I'd give them the quid or give a couple of quid. But it's just, and then I started moved on. I remember when I was working down in London, and it happens a lot now on local. You can see them as you're going towards them, and they've got the clipboard, and it's if somebody's shaking a charity box and it's clearly got cash in it, I'd probably go and give something, 20, 50p or something, I'd probably get, but the ones that are walking with their clipboards, who have got the high vis vests on, looking very professional, but are clearly employed to do it.
Yeah,
Those
yeah, but the
people,
high vids vests though, that makes them, it makes them more important and it makes it safer. Oh, when I'm wearing a high vis vest, so I'm official. I'm
yeah, and I
official.
always,
You're giving your details to someone official.
yeah, and I mean, it's very difficult to have a conversation with these people because my basic first question is, are you getting paid for doing this? And now we're on a track of a conversation which is not going to be pleasant because I've said that opening line. Are you getting paid for this? And we both know the truth. They are getting paid for it. That's why they're doing it. But if somebody's standing there with a shaker, let's just say, you'd
Oh
hope
yeah, yeah,
that
might be a
that
volunteer. Yeah,
what was he? Can you remember Big Heck from the sort of 80s? Big Heck. He was always got around Whitley Bay and Tynemouth, and he had his collecting for charity. Bless him, he died quite young. But Big Heck used to walk around with his big book and collect money in the pubs,
that
and
rings a
you never
bell. Yeah.
refused Big Heck. And you knew it was going to charity.
Mm.
So that's sort of my endearing memory when I first started uh, drinking. That Big Heck was around Whitley Bay, Tynemouth, Newcastle, collecting money,
Mm.
and and so those type of shakers, I've got no problem. But as soon as I see these professional people that are getting paid, it just boils my blood. You
It
know,
makes me wonder if they're on commission. How many names did you get?
yeah,
How many
yeah,
names did you get? And they're
yeah,
incentivized to do so. I'm assuming. I haven't seen no evidence of it, but given how I've seen other types of clipboard campaigns work, that you earn a bit of a commission based on how well you did while you were out. And to be
well,
fair, are you giving your direct debit deals to someone on the street?
exactly. And that's the thing. Most of these people with the clipboard, which some of us have maybe done over the last 20 years, you're you're signing up, giving a direct debit, and then they'll give the spiel. Oh, you do know you can cancel it within 14 days. Oh yeah, but you got to make 200 phone calls to get it cancelled. You know, so you just don't bother because it's only a fiver, isn't it? It's only a fiver a month, and they get probably very large commission from that. They probably get £4 of that fiver a month, don't they, as a payment?
Well, but it's only 20 pence a day, Mark. It's only 20 pence a day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you add that up though.
Well,
Yeah, but it sounds better if you say it's 20 pence a day though.
yeah, but
Only.
how many of us have signed up? I know we're slightly digressing here in terms of being generous. How many of us signed up for these things, forgot to sign off, and then suddenly, if we went through our money at the end of the month, how
Yeah.
much we're giving away by being generous, or is it guilt?
Well, if you look at the way some of the adverts run, and it's one
Yeah.
reason why, right, we've always done well in this country with the amounts we give out to things like children in need and
Mm.
stand up to cancer and all of that. The numbers I've seen on the totals I've seen on some that have been brilliant and makes me feel proud of where I'm from because
Yeah,
we're a very when something needs to happen, when some charitable thing needs to happen, many people step up, always do. But then I've noticed that it's a stronger and stronger trend. Hence why I've just stopped watching them. You'll get 5 minutes of entertainment, and then you'll get maybe another 7 minutes or so of watching this destitute video with horrific music in the background,
oh, the music gets me every time.
guilting you into it. I'm like, well, surely if they wanted to appeal to me, I'd want to see how the money was used. I wouldn't want to see what I'm putting money into. I would see how it was used. Like, show me the change you've made. Show me the changes you are making, or that you could make. Like, show me the difference, the before and after you went in and put some money in there, and I can see it being used, and I can see how useful it all is. But when it's just a constant, within an hour, you're getting minutes of entertainment of somebody doing a bit of stand up or something, and then, but a good portion of that hour, if not equal to the entertainment, feels like
Yeah,
feels like more. It's just the number going across the bottom of the screen and text this
you
and
press
the
the
number
button.
10, 20, or 50 to this number to give 10, 20, or £50. It's I don't know, but I'm not sure I agree with the whole way of doing it.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's funny you mentioned the sort of children in need stuff because I was watching one the other. I'm sure it was Children in Need or whether it was the one show, and they did that story, they did the music terrible, and at the end of it, they said, and to contribute, text this number and give 40, 30, 20, or 10, and I'm like, 40 quid. 30, 20, or 10, and they actually put it in that way. They didn't say, start with 10 and go to 40. They start you off with a 40 to get it in your head. And I'm like, what happened to 20 and 40 pence? And I was horrified. And especially when, why are they start, we'll talk a little bit about where the UK is at the moment in terms of money and mortgages and fuel and costs, and you're asking for 40 quid. Most people who are on the breadline would look at that and switch off because I can't give. I can't
Precisely.
give.
And the thing is, knowing I've done some of those text style campaign things in the past, and basically you send a text in, and that text goes into a little bit of database scripting, and that number on the end is just cut out by the routine, and it's matched up so you know that they're given 10. So there is no reason programmatically in my mind why you couldn't put any number in there. That you couldn't put 22 or 12, 15, 5, 7. There's no reason other than them saying this is the campaign we want to run. But knowing how the technology will run in the background that cuts that piece of text up into the person's number, the amount, have they opted out with the marketing thing on the end, cutting all of that string of text up. There's no reason why you couldn't put any number in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anywhere between 10 and 40, or in groups, or in even whole numbers. No reason.
It's going everywhere. I mean, here's a couple of other different examples. So I do self-checkout at Asda.
Me too.
And Morrison's or whatever. So self-checkout, have you noticed when you get to the end of their transaction, you scan, what does it ask you if you want to do? Cancer research? Would you like to give? And
It doesn't do that in Sainsbury's.
in Asda now, and I think it's for a set period of time, if you get the end of a transaction before you pay, it says, would you like to give X amount to cancer research? And it's got some values across the bottom, and you would just tap one of them, and it will add it onto your bill. Same principle in McDonald's. I bought coffee in McDonald's, so my coffee is $1.79. Yeah, I don't buy burgers. So I go in, order me coffee, and it says, would you like to round it up for charity?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Just Eat does the same as a few places.
Does it?
Your Domino's does the same. Do you want to round up, and it goes to this charity? I thought, well, I don't even know what that charity is, but do you want to round it up to the full pound? But you're like, well,
Do you remember growing up? Maybe your mum and my mum and dad know better. But the phrase "charity starts
at home."
What does that mean? I don't know,
Give to your family first. Like, make sure your family's okay, and then you give whatever excess to anyone else.
Support yourself. Make sure you're nourished. You're well. Your outlook is okay in terms of your financial status. Then consider not
giving the remainder. Giving the remainder to someone else.
Yeah. But just be careful about. If I've got I mean, obviously they used the phrase going back in the time whereby everything was cash. So if your dad's trumped up and my dad trumped up with the brown paper envelope on a Thursday with the £5.27 in it, and they've give the housekeeping and they've had the beer on a Friday night, and at the end on a Monday there was 47 pence left, you might consider giving 5 pence to the charity man around the corner, mightn't you? Or the bogey man when he came, and got some pegs off him.
Aye, I use handmade pegs.
Yeah,
or you might or sharpen your knives, or
but now they've just made it so easy to give to far too many that we're probably losing track of where we're being generous and where we're not being generous.
It's easy to use, especially when it's all direct debit these days as well.
Yeah. And I probably this is probably quite embarrassing, but a lot of the time I use my card and I don't think about it. So then maybe once a month I'm going to my account and I'll have a sprint through and look through it, but I'm not really going into any detail of where I'm spending my money. And that's a worry, isn't it? Because if you've signed up for this, and this, it's like my Netflix. I mean, I'm diverging here, but apparently Netflix is going up to 17.99, and I don't even think about it. It's going up to 17.99. Flipping
Bear in
heck.
mind, pre-pandemic, it was 11.99 for the
Yeah,
premium. All right, and it's already 15.99 at the minute.
yeah,
And it's kind of their own fault because they overstretched themselves, thinking, "Oh, look at all these people watching us during the pandemic," and lashed out money and all sorts. Now they're going, "Oh, everyone stop watching." Yeah, now
That's
you're going back to your natural audience size.
yeah.
You're knackered, right?
It is, but I mean, here's a couple of ones where we're being generous. So, taxis,
Oh yeah.
restaurants, haircuts.
Oh, you're tipping. Tipping.
Are we being generous to them? I have to say it. Basically, yes to all of them. I do.
Well, in some ways, you don't want the taxi driver to think bad of you afterwards, especially if it's an Uber where you get a rating.
Do you give
And
the bus
that
driver a tip? Do we give the bus driver a tip?
we don't, but when you get an Uber, I've never I've never got an Uber. Partly for this reason that you can not just review the driver can review you. And if
Yeah,
he thinks that you're stingy, he can just
yeah,
give you a 1 star for no other reason than he felt like it. Well,
yeah,
so then people won't want to pick you up. I'm not picking him up. I'm not picking that job up. Look, he's a 1 star. Like, well, whenever I was in, I would round it up to the nearest 10 or the nearest 5, whatever it was here. If it was a 12 quid thing, I would give him 15. Say, hey, just keep.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if it was
So
an expense.
it gets me thinking, like stuff like, I don't know. So you go to the local chippy. We don't tip, do we? But if you went to a restaurant to get fish and chips, we would tip. Um,
Yeah, you'd round it up, or you might leave a few quid on the table, but you wouldn't at a chip shop, no.
no,
Or
no,
if I went to a
yeah,
chip shop and they had a charity box on the thing, and there was
maybe,
like,
yeah,
25, 50 pence, wherever it is, left over, I'll just stick it in the box.
yeah. And if we go to the same place for a haircut, we feel like we've got to tip him because otherwise he's scalp with the next time.
Well, you know him now, don't you?
I
Mates
know,
now.
yeah.
Mates now. But,
And
mates,
then
you would just do the job, wouldn't you? You wouldn't have to tip.
I was I was in a Turkish one recently, and I was convinced their pricing scale was deliberately ployed to get you to give that last bit to them. Deliberately ployed. So psychologically, it looks cheap enough, but they put it so far towards the upper pence limit on a pound that you would inevitably give that money. So, like, I don't know, let's say it was £4.70 for a haircut. We know where we're going, don't we? And if it was £8.50, we know where we're going with it, don't we? Yeah, and it's just like, oh,
You
you
know,
know,
what's the tipping point? Is it 60?
mm,
Is it 70 pence? And then all those extra 30s add up over time.
yeah, yeah. And then the last bit I thought, I mean, it's a while since I was in the US, but the tipping culture in the US versus here, good lord, you know,
Don't get me started on the whole. Do you know they have a minimum salary over there in
yeah,
some states. I'm trying to remember which state it was. Said that it excludes serving staff, and the reason they excluded serving staff was because, well, they make tips anyway, which means that if we gave them a minimum wage plus all the tips they get, that outbalances it all, and plus they can compensate their own salary anyway through tips, which then created a different culture. So now, if you're not tipping, you're basically insulting the other person. Well,
yeah,
I don't earn enough unless you tip me. Well, that's not my problems. Yeah, but waitressing and waitering and whatnot over there is a career choice. Some people want to do that, and they do it for life, right? They want to serve people. They want to be in that culture.
so
Here
no,
it's
other,
sort of looked down on, but there's a service fee. So you've got the price of your
mm,
meal, then you've got a
yeah,
service fee which is treated as a tax over there. Then you've got your tip. On top of that, I'm like, right, so I'm paying for my food and I'm paying for the staff, and then I'm paying the staff separately on top of that, and that's seen as normal. Oh, and it has to be a percentage, Mark. It has to
yeah.
be a fixed percentage of the bill, otherwise it's seen as insulting.
So we'll not go down the route of talking about whether that should be taxable or not, should we?
Well, I mean, if they're going to impose it, it's technically revenue, isn't it?
Well,
Or perhaps
exactly.
perhaps what you should do is, instead of charging a tenner for that meal, charge $12.50 for that meal so that you can afford to pay for the staff. That's what most companies, certainly in this country, do. That if they can't afford to serve that at that price, you up the price. You don't just say, well, no, the meal's still only a tenner. The other $2.50 is the service fee. What?
Yeah.
So I'm paying your staff. Can I, right, if I opt out of the service fee, can I go up and get the food myself? No.
There was I did something recently, so they said it was 250 quid per person. I was like, well, it's 500 quid, it's expensive. Then when I actually had it done, it was 350 per person, and then they said plus VAT, it was nearly £1,000, and I was just like, so something that, when you add on VAT, when you add on tips, something that goes from being a reasonable price thing suddenly becomes extortionate.
Yeah.
And it's less like. But yeah, I mean, I think if can you imagine you Simon, you're doing a bit of consulting and you put them with a bill and you've agreed it's 600 quid a day or whatever, and you say, oh, by the way, that didn't include me tips and me tax and me service, so it's actually 850 quid, and it's just like, what?
Yeah. My mum and dad go on cruises and they were talking about, oh well, this includes all the service fees and the tips. What? Oh well, we prepay all of our tips. In with the the paying of the holiday, so we don't have to pay tips when we. What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like tips are well, you have to otherwise you put it out. No, the whole point in a tip is that this service was amazing.
Yeah.
Here, there's something for you. I mean, would you go up to a bar, buy a pint, and pay the service fee on top? Right. Well, it's £4 for your pint plus it's £1.50 service fee. Oh, and here, get one for yourself.
Yeah. By the way, the server smiled at you, so that's an extra 50 pence.
I mean, the number of times I quite happily give when friends have campaigns on Facebook. The number of time I've stuck in 20 quid, or I've rounded it up to get them to their target or something. Right, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to put the extra money in the charity box and say, oh, just round it up and drop it in the charity box. I'm happy to leave a few quid on the table when I know it's been great service, even though you expect great service. It shouldn't be something that you pay additionally for. It just should happen. But if they've been really good and they've gone out their way and they've made sure we're okay, and they were really nice about it, then they've left you with a good memory of the place. Yep, happy to do that. Number of times I've went, oh, and one for yourself. When I used to drink back in the day, the number of times I've done it, so just one for yourself, because I've got another person and all of that. I just hate it when the charity is then taken out of my hands and imposed on me. So now you have to give a tip. It has to be this percentage. It has to be in these particular establishments, and when you're buying these certain things, you've taken all the choice and all of the joy out of it for me, because now you're telling me I don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah. Do you remember Michael? He was when it's enforced on you. I always remember when we were in heaven, and when you got 50 odd people working there, it's somebody's birthday every week, and they would go around the office and they would shove that box in front of your nose. And he actually came to him and he said, "Mark, this is ridiculous." He said, "What about leaving it on reception? If you want to give something, we'll put it in the box." And I was like, "That's great."
Remove the guilt trip.
And that's what we did from there on. If you wanted to give, you went to reception and put something in the box for whoever's birthday it was that week. But not have it shoved under your nose and say, give me some of your money now. So he's right. I loved his phrase, you can't save them all, Mark. And fair play to him. Some people were saying, oh, it's just, it's somebody's birthday. And I was like, yeah, but some people can afford and some people can't, and they feel obliged to put in because it's been shoved under their nose.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where my generosity's going now. It's going down the pan by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's not our fault. It's not our fault, though.
Yeah.
Alright, so, speaking of generosity, the best way to help the channel, click the like button, subscribe, tell all your friends, share, likes, comments, all of that. It's all good stuff. All cussing out. Yes, you have to do it.
Yes, I'm shoving it under your nose.
The like is our service fee.
Yeah. There's no VAT.
Excluding VAT.
Yeah.
excluding VAT. Aye. But until the next one, take care.